What do you think of when you hear the word Advent? Does your mind directly go to Christmas? I know mine does at times. And that's okay, I guess, but maybe this year to look at it a little bit differently. We celebrate Advent as the 4 Sundays prior to Christmas. And as we celebrate those Sundays, the first week typically is the hope candle. Maybe you lit a candle, maybe a priest or a pastor or somebody in the church lit the candle. Maybe it was your family tradition. And that first week is the hope candle. And the idea is to center your thinking around each theme. And so this week's theme is hope. When you light that candle and you light a candle of hope, do you realize that Jesus is the hope of the world? Is there something that you have been hoping for, desiring, wanting to see God do something? A few years ago, I heard a sermon by Andy Stanley. It's called The Thrill of Hope. You can look it up and find it on YouTube. But in that message, he focuses on Luke chapter 1. And typically during Christmas, we all want to jump to Luke 2. But look at Luke 1 for a moment and see the story of Zechariah and Elizabeth. As they suddenly had been hoping for something. Both of them were faithful followers, hoping to see God do something, and God actually does something with them. And an angel visits them and gives them hope in the midst of a hopeless world. Israel had been a whipping boy of all of these kingdoms, Babylon, and then Greece, and then the Romans take over, and they'd been enduring a lot, and there didn't seem to be like there was a lot of hope. But during this time, God visits 2 people. Well, he really only visits 1 and gives them hope because it was all going to point to Jesus, because their son would be the one that would pave the way for Jesus. John the Baptist would pave that way. And I began to think about that and think about hope. And we sometimes don't understand hope, because hope, we think, has to be instantly gratified. We have to have it right now, because we think that we're going to hope for something and then it's going to come true. It's not a wish that you suddenly, fold your arms and make like a genie motion and poof, there it is. That's not what it is. There's this burning desire to see God do something in your life, see God birth something, begin to create something in your life. To have that hope that says that I'm only going to put my hope in God on this one, that only God is the one that can deliver. That's real hope. And in the case of Zechariah and Elizabeth, that's exactly what happened. Only God could intervene to allow them to get pregnant when they were way too old to be able to conceive a child. And yet God intervened. He heard their prayer. Have you taken those prayers to God and said, God, this is what I hope for? Not, I'm hoping for a new job, or I'm hoping for this. I'm hoping for something cool for Christmas. But rather, it's something deeper, something more meaningful that only God could fulfill. And so, do you put your hope in him? Do you put everything in that basket? Grabbing from an Easter metaphor, do you put all those eggs in that basket? Well, I would put everything in the manger of Christ. The hope of glory, the one who would save our souls, to be able to say, God, make the most of who you are in me. Fulfill the hope of glory, what you want in my life. Because when we have hope in something that only God can fulfill, it's a part of what he wants to do. It's a part of saying, God, you're the one that's going to fulfill this. You're the one that I want to do this. There were a few faithful people in Israel over the years that were hoping to see God do something. And God does something. And that's what Jesus does. He's the deliverer of hope. We light that hope candle to celebrate the one who would bring us hope. Right now in Arizona, it hasn't rained as of today for 99 days. That's a long time. And we hope for rain. We hope that rain would come. But I don't think we put it in the Lord's hands. We just say, well, that's just what will happen. We live in the desert after all. We hope that the weather will get cooler. Well, we don't really trust God for that. We just, the weather patterns, that's the way it goes. I want you to think differently this Christmas, this Advent season. Think, God, is there something I'm hoping for? There are things that I'm hoping for, but there are things that I'm hoping for that I can play a huge role in. That's not really hope. That's more of a wish. That's what I kind of want to do. But rather to think bigger. God, what do you want to do? What do you want to see done, and how can you use me to be a piece of what you want to do? God, I'm going to put my hope in you. Elizabeth and Zechariah were a piece of what God was going to do through John the Baptist and eventually through Jesus. That's the hope of glory. The one who saves our souls connects with our hope, because he knows that he's the only one that can answer that hope. He's the one that can be the only one that can fulfill that need. Maybe you're praying for a child or a friend or sickness or whatever it is to be healed, and your only hope is in Jesus. Put your hope in him. Let him know that you care and that he cares, and let him know that he is the only one that can fulfill that need. And regardless of how things go, you will still trust him. You will still follow him. You are still looking eagerly to him, his coming, his making himself known in your situation. Put it in his hands, because he indeed is the hope of glory, the one who wants to save our souls, the one who wants to do his mission here on earth through us. Put your trust in him and have a Merry Christmas.